So we're going to revert to our trusty hand tool, the paring knife, and we will just finish off some of the edges and get that fine-tuned. Well, as you can see, this is a pretty good day to be headed to the shop and be working indoors. It's a little chilly out here. We have a very light snow falling out. Can you see that? It's just coating the trees. It's actually quite pretty here today. You know, I often think how lucky we are living here in St. Albert. The head of security and I are going to head to the store and get to work on The Lost World and update you on the repair we did on the Purdue book. Missus, are you ready to go? You got your coat on? You got your coat on? My goodness, you're a pretty girl. Okay, let's take a quick look and see how we made out drawing the paper on the spine and front board edge. We let it sit overnight. Take the weights off. And that's coming off very nicely. There we go. So I'm just gonna lift this up, get rid of that. Let's see here. So as you can see, it's a big white strip now. I'm gonna take out the tin, and it did its job. There's no glue where we don't want glue. All of that's good. Okay, so pull some of those thready bits off. Okay, I'll do that in a minute. So we're just gonna gently work that. We don't want to tear it or crack it or make it bulge or bubble along the edges here where it's been glued. Okay, so there's a technique you can employ for this sort of thing. What's the best way here? So you do this when you open a new book. Board down, and then you take a little bit from that side, a little bit from this side, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. Okay. Oh, look. Pressed leaf. Remember we were talking about stuff you find in books? There you go. I'm just going to leave that there because that is part of the book now. Oh, here's another one. It's probably been in there for over 100 years. Oh, there's another little one. Should have looked at this book for the things I find in books episode. Okay, so there. It's roughly kind of half and half. So I'm just going to let that sit now, and we'll let that repair just kind of soak in a little bit. One other thing. Let's see, it's getting a little right in the center. I did find another issue though as I was finishing the repair on this one. Look, the back board, yeah, it wants to come loose too. So we're going to repair this one, but we're going to do it from the inside as opposed to the outside, I think. Okay, there we go. So these are the little pieces that we need to attach there. So that's one I've put on. And I don't know if you can see how exactly nice and smooth that is as it goes over. But what you see here, you will see through the leather. So you can see why if you just left it like that, that's all rubby and bumpy, and you would see that once you had the leather applied over the boards. So putting these on certainly makes it look much, much better. One of the things I had to do is take this knife. It's called a paring knife. It is simply one of the most sharpest devices I have ever used, and you have to be extremely careful because, man, you can take a digit off, as I found out in class in Telluride, which resulted in this little sign they left on my workstation. Please be careful, Barry. Yeah, I just about took the end of my finger off. I applied one piece of leather as a test just to see how that was going to work. It turned out rather nicely. So I'll apply the other two pieces, and then we will be done that part of the repair. I'm going to show you what they look like. So we take our paring knife, and we very carefully and gently, we're just going to scrape some of the suede off the back of the leather, if you will. And the reason we're doing this is when it goes over the spine bit, right where it joins the board. Here, I'll show you. That'll be easier. So right where it joins the board here, we want a nice smooth transition from the spine to the board, so we just blend that piece right in. So just taking a few millimeters off each end will help facilitate that. It's amazing how such little things can make a really noticeable difference when you're bookbinding. So there we go. We have our little bits. We'll soak them in some paste and apply them. I've only got a little bit of paste left in here, so I'm just gonna actually just put these little bits and literally soak them in here, because I want this leather, this leather very malleable and to fit nice and smooth and right, because we want to make sure that we have our grooves are nice and sharp along the sides too. So we're just gonna really make sure this leather is nice and soaked in the paste, which it appears to be. Yeah, I need some new paste here right away. Okay, so let's just apply these. Hope I'm doing this right. So, like I say, I want to be careful about the pieces on the edge of the... There we go. Of course, leather stretches too. You have to be aware of that as you're working with it, because it'll stretch out of the spot where you thought it was going to end up. Okay, so I'm going to take my trusty bone folder and some time, and we're just going to work this leather in, make sure we have it exactly where we want it, let it dry up a little bit, and then we'll set aside, let it dry, and maybe we'll get started on the hide piece next, because I need to do some paring on that spot where the title's going to go in the front. While we're letting the leather dry on the hubs on the spine of the Lost World, I am going to get my Scharfix out and work on that piece of leather that we are going to put around those hubs when the time comes. Well, as those are drying, here's my Scharfix machine. And I purchased this machine because, well, I'm old. I'm getting arthritis in this hand, and I can only use the paring knife that we saw earlier for so long. So I purchased this machine at great expense, and and I use it to pair leather with now. It's takes a bit of getting used to, but once you get used to it, it works really well. I'll set it up and show you how that works. So this is the only bit right here that I want to make thinner than the rest of it. This is where it folds over that title piece will fit in. So on the Charfix, so this is the Charfix machine. This bit right here is a roller, and right above the roller, oh, who's this? Hi, Mrs. Is it time for cookies? It is. Well, you're going to have some cookies. Oh, excuse you. Okay, wait a few minutes. So this bit is a roller. I'll let that focus. So the leather rolls over there, right above it. I don't know if you can quite see it. I don't want to put my thumb on it because it's a razor blade. That's right. And with these bits here and this bit here, you can take that razor blade and you can tilt it this way, you can tilt it that way, you can tilt it a little bit back, forward, so that you can get the exact angle you need on that piece of leather. Okay, we'll give this a try. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this from that angle, and I definitely need both hands and all my concentration to do this because I do not want to cut a hole through this. So the leather is sliding very easily, so I want to lower it just a little bit, and by lower it I mean the blade, so that it cuts into the leather. There we go. We're starting to get a little bit of a bite. Can you see that coming off? I hope so. You just have to be very, very careful and slow when you're doing this, because otherwise you can ruin a very expensive piece of leather very quickly. Okay, that's too much. I don't have to take much off. Ooh. I don't know why that's doing that, but I don't like it. Right near the edge here, I will take the paring knife and just do that by hand. You know, this is like watching a trapeze artist without a net. You know what, I'm just gonna see. So I'll take this leather, I'll just pinch it like this. Just see if that's getting close along here. Still too thick in there. Okay, I'm going to work on this for a while and see if I can't get it where I need it. Okay, done all we're going to do with the Charfix machine that I'm comfortable doing with the Charfix machine. So we're going to revert to our trusty hand tool, the paring knife, and we will just finish off some of the edges and get that fine-tuned. Well, I said I finished what I was doing comfortably with the Charfix because this is kind of the, can you see that? The thickness that we're taking off the back of that leather. So that's like, gosh, a millimeter and a half. For our non-metric friends, that's not very much. Okay, so here we go. We're going to take this knife on our special block. It's a glass it's a glass block used for building, you know, those walls you see outside apartment buildings and stuff. Works really well because it's nice and smooth. So we're just going to take and push along this edge and just get a few more millimeters off. Make sure that we are nice and smooth all the way around. And again, this is very patient work, deliberate. You do not want to be in a rush when you're using a paring knife. Okay, so I'm just going to carry on and get this little rectangle to the thickness that we need. Well, I have a bit more nerve-wracking work to do on the leather for the covering of the Lost World. I'm going to continue to just poke away at that nice and slow, get it to where I want it. It's going to take a while, but you know, I do have some good news though. I ordered some handle letters. They are on their way from England, and when they arrive, I will be able to put titles on that piece of leather. Also, here is our book from Purdue. I said we would see how it turned out, and this is how it turned out. So, applied, reattached both of the boards, and along this edge with our rice paper, and then painted it, and then there's our back edge. I had mentioned I was going to do it from the inside. You know what? It works so well on the front board. I thought I might as well just use what works, and it'll match up better anyway. Well, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Bailey the Bookman. I hope you enjoyed seeing that the repair process and the prep process for the Lost World. I'm really looking forward to getting the leather applied to that, and when the time comes, we will videotape that and we'll show you how it goes if it turns out well. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Bailey the Bookman.